Pretty much everyone on the planet is looking for a better way to do school, right? It's this huge quest to find a system that doesn't just drill facts into our kids, but actually gets them ready for this incredibly complex world we live in. And today, we're going to dive into one of the biggest, boldest experiments trying to do just that, the International Baccalaureate, or as you probably know it, the IB.
I mean, think about it. What if you could design the perfect school? What would it even look like? What would you teach? Well, it's a question that keeps a lot of people up at night. And one of the most powerful answers out there right now is the IB program. It's this global framework that thousands of schools are adopting, even public schools that are hungry for a complete overhaul.
And this isn't just some theory floating around in an academic paper. No way. We're seeing major school systems, like the one in Seoul, South Korea, looking at the IB program and thinking, okay, this could be the blueprint. This could be how we totally transform our classrooms.
And really, when you get down to it, the IB's mission is huge. It's super aspirational. We're not just talking about getting good grades here. The goal is to shape a whole type of person, someone who's naturally curious, who's knowledgeable, and who's genuinely caring. But okay, that sounds great, right? What does that actually mean when the bell rings and you're in a classroom?
So yeah, let's break that down. What is the promise of the IB? What's the secret sauce, the core idea that has educators all over the world so excited? Okay, so this diagram really lays out the whole philosophy perfectly. Right there in the middle, you see the learner profile. That's the kind of student they're trying to nurture. And then everything else, I mean everything, from how teachers teach to the concepts they learn, it all orbits around that central goal. It literally puts the student at the heart of the entire universe of learning.
And here's a huge difference. You know how traditional school often feels like separate boxes? You've got math class over here, history class over there, and they never talk to each other. Well, the IB throws that out. Instead, it organizes everything around these 6 big, real-world themes. So kids are exploring these massive questions that don't fit into just one subject. It makes learning feel like it's actually about the world, not just memorizing stuff for a test.
And the whole thing is powered by this one crucial idea, learner agency. It sounds a little jargony, but it's simple. It's the belief that students aren't just empty buckets you pour information into. They're active partners. Think of them as co-pilots in their own education, grabbing the wheel and helping to steer.
And this quote from a principal just sums up that amazing goal perfectly. I mean, it's a beautiful vision, creating global citizens. Who wouldn't want that? But, and this is a big but, what happens when that beautiful idea slams into the hard reality of an existing public school system with all its own rules, its own bureaucracy?
And that brings us to the reality check. Because any big idea like this, no matter how great it sounds, completely depends on the teachers in the classroom. So let's pivot now from the ideal to the messy, complicated, real-world challenges of actually making this happen. To get that reality check, we're digging into this amazing, super in-depth report from Seoul's Office of Education. And it's fantastic because it gives us this rare, data-backed peek behind the curtain. What really happens when a public school system starts down the path to becoming IB certified? Now, what's really cool is how they did it. The study used this tool called the Concerns-Based Adoption Model, or CBM. It's basically a scientific way to figure out what teachers are really worried about. So instead of just hearing stories, they could actually measure and quantify the stress points when you introduce a massive change like the IB program. And wow, does the data tell a story. Just look at this chart. The number one thing, the tallest bar by a mile, is management and workload. Get this. Their lowest concern is whether it will actually help the students. They believe in that part. What they're terrified of is the insane, crushing personal workload and administrative nightmare of it all. And this next slide shows you exactly why that workload is so crazy. The teachers are literally caught in a tug-of-war between 2 different worlds. On one side, you have the IB framework, which wants this flexible, big-picture kind of assessment. But on the other side, the national system demands very specific grades for every single subject, all logged into a database. They're being asked to do 2 completely different jobs at the same time.
And listen to this quote from a teacher, right from the trenches. They say it plain as day. We have to do both, so the assessment is too much. They're trying to smash this square peg of the national curriculum into the round hole of the IB. You can just feel the frustration. It's inefficient, and it's got to be absolutely exhausting.
But, and this is so important, this isn't a story about failure. Not at all. It's a story about growing pains.
Because even with all these massive challenges, the teachers in Seoul are starting to see something pretty amazing happening with their students.
And this is the thing that keeps them pushing forward. You hear them say things like this, that they can see students' self-direction gradually becoming visible. They can see the kids are actually thinking in their work. So that core promise of the IB, it's starting to happen. The experiment is tough for sure, but it is showing signs that it's working.
Okay, so what do? You've got a program with incredible promise, but an implementation that's a real struggle. How do you build a bridge over that gap? Well, the great thing about this Seoul report is that it doesn't just point out all the problems, it actually lays out a clear roadmap to fix them.
And the solutions are super practical, aimed right at the things the teachers were screaming about. It really comes down to 3 big steps. First, lighten the load. Get the admin work off their back so they can actually teach. Second, boost the support. Give them better training, real rewards. And third, build better tools. Create a system that fixes that two masters problem.
Now, this diagram might look a little complicated at first glance, but it's actually a brilliant summary of the whole situation. It connects the dots. Over here, you have the school's challenges. In the middle, you see the positive changes happening with the kids, and on the other side, you have the exact policy changes needed to support the whole thing. It's the entire ecosystem on one page.
And when you zoom in on the specific recommendations, you see it's a real toolkit for making this work. They want to create a shared online platform to stop that ridiculous double assessment problem. They want to hire more teachers and cut back on the paperwork. And this is huge. They want to support the people. Things like creating a special career track for IB principals and giving teachers real incentives like extra promotion points or time off for study to reward them for doing this incredibly important but difficult work.
And all of this brings us back to one final, really big question. What we see from this experiment in Seoul is that adopting the IB isn't like installing a new piece of software. It's not just importing a curriculum. It forces you to confront the very foundation of your entire existing system. So for any school, for any country looking down this road, the real question is this: are you just trying to import a system, or are you actually ready to spark a revolution?